Welcome back to Your 1230, the only podcast where our guests tell their story with the help of 12 questions in just 30 minutes. I'm your host, Mike Salitro, and today we are very excited to be joined by Andrea Enright. Andrea is a small town girl living in a Colorado world. She's been an entrepreneur since 2001, specializing in strategic storytelling and brand messaging for both corporate and coaching clients, usually while wearing a hat. Andrea is now passionate about helping professionals get brave with their personal brand and the second half of their life. Her experience includes content marketing, B movie acting, and plenty of hitchhiking in dangerous countries. She has a podcast called Permission to Be Human, where she deems freedom as the new F word. Please welcome Andrea Enright. Andrea, welcome. We are very excited to be speaking with you.
Thank you so much, Mike. I'm super excited to see you again after a long time of not seeing you, and this format. I love this 12:30 thing. I love how pithy and really distilled down it is. It speaks to my heart there. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It is good to see you again. And with all the exciting stuff in your bio, I'm going to start at the boring part up front. Strategic storytelling. What does that mean, and what makes a story strategic? What makes storytelling strategic?
Yeah, so nothing boring about it. So I really like to tell my client's story as their personal brand. So what I say I do is I meet with coaches and clients, typically who are 45 to 60, who are done with the corporate scene, want to raise their voice, want to boost their impact, want to increase their vibration. And I take their cornfield and I turn it into a shot of whiskey, right? So that's kind of the distilling down that I do. And we basically weave all of their personal stories, professional lessons into their online personal brand on LinkedIn or on their website. And that is what strategic storytelling is like, you can tell a story, but it needs to have a few important things. It better have a focus. It better be brief, brilliant, and be gone. And it better have high stakes.
I love that answer. I'm going to put you on the spot now because we did not practice this, but using that as an example, a strategic storytelling example, your bio mentions hitchhiking in dangerous countries. Do you have a story that comes to mind when that phrase is spoken, or when you include it?
Yeah. So I'm not going to be able to come up with a short story on the spot, but I will say that I definitely, as a child, I was told never to pick up a hitchhiker, never to get in the car with a hitchhiker. It was like up there with doing heroin, right? Like, do not do it, right?
Do not do
Especially
this.
as a woman. And so one day, right after I moved in with my husband, he brought home a couple of hitchhikers. And I was like,
Okay.
what are you doing? Right. And, this was a really big test for my instincts versus my rational mind. And it was when we were adults at age 30. We lived in Bulgaria for 27 months, and then we hitchhiked and couch surfed across the Middle East and North Africa for 10 months. So crazy shit, right? And we were forced into hitchhiking, not forced. We were like, oh, let's try to hitchhike, right? Because why not hitchhike in Syria, right? I mean, that's clearly my parents would approve of that. Right? So yeah, so we did hitchhike through a bunch of Turkey and Syria, and it's just amazing how it all went so well, right? There's no stories of a gun. There were no stories of going over a cliff or being kidnapped. People were very friendly, and and we just always had a great story, and people's hospitality was amazing. So I came away with it untouched, unscathed.
Well, there you go. A happy ending. That works out well.
Yeah.
You also have B movie acting as part of your bio. Are you
Yeah.
an actor by training, by nature, how did you get involved in that?
Well, so I am performative by nature. Love to dance, love to sing, but no professional training. I've never been a formal actor. It's just that we were in the Peace Corps, as I mentioned, in Bulgaria, and there they filmed, they make movies there because it's cheap, right? And they hired us because we don't cost any money. We don't belong to the Screen Actors Guild, right? So they could pay us $250 a day. We got our own trailer. You might catch me in the middle of the night on the Sci-Fi Channel in a really bad CGI movie. I was, I mean, I'm talking really bad, right? I was in something called Mega Snake, and I was in Lake Placid 2. It's in the Echelon Conspiracy. Most of these movies don't make it to the theater; they just go straight to Sci-Fi Channel. Really fun experience, but definitely, and I definitely got to meet a bunch of actors, you know, because some famous people. So
Okay. Good story. Good stories there. So you certainly can tell a story. How do you help others find their voice or craft their story? It started with the cornfield visual, which was brilliant to kind of use that. But how do you help others who um, might struggle to say, I have nothing exciting to talk about. You have all these wonderful experiences, but I don't have any of those.
This is the beautiful thing, is that I've never met a person who didn't have a whole bunch, like, that I couldn't mine for their magic, right? So I chat with them, and it's all about asking the right questions, right? And I just have kind of a little bit of a journalistic mind, and so my clients fill out a very comprehensive questionnaire, and then we get on the phone 3 or 4 times, and I poke them and I say why, and I keep asking questions. And, I say things like, what is your signature song? What's your mantra in life? What's on your nightstand? What do you have hidden in the basement? Like, is it Diet Coke, or is it, what do you do when your daughters aren't looking, right? I had a recent client of mine. It's like, I go to Taco Bell when, like, I know they're not going to be in the car. So we all have these, and some people have 72 miniature owls, right? And some people have been growing poppies for 20 years. So, we all have these very interesting, colorful things about our life. Sometimes we just don't realize that that's what makes us who we are. And, when you really get, I find that I help people build the bravery to show up as who they really are, because that's how you stand out. If you want to sound like everyone else, great. Like, no one's going to choose you. No one's going to, but when you're authentic and you're like, yep, I like to say I'm a dedicated mama, a mediocre runner, and a bad vegetable eater. Like, it's just a few things about me. we all have those things if we're willing to play with little humility.
So I think you have it spot on there with the good parenting and the avoidance of vegetables. So that's probably a good decision. But what I really want to highlight, the asking good questions and then realizing that being our authentic self is kind of our superpower, and that nobody else can take that from us. So if we can do a good job of identifying what's going on in our lives that's interesting to share, that's what will set us apart. And I wrote down, because I didn't realize this, target clients between 45 and 60. How did you land on that, and what does that look like in practice?
Great question. So one thing, target audience is huge, right? The more narrow you get, like, when you market to everyone, you market to no one. So get specific. And I could always get more specific. I should probably narrow it down to 45 to 50. But what I find with these people is that they are at a place in their life where their principles and their values are fairly well set, but how they manifest that is totally up to them, right? And it's the sky's the limit. In fact, the sky is not the limit. I'm not going to use that cliche. Like, there is no limit, right? I hate cliches, right? I love to twist cliches. So, for example, I work with a client, and they might end up, I might write a profile for them or ghost post for them. And maybe they're going to write a book. Maybe they'll move to Bali. Maybe they'll join a board. Maybe they'll have a 5th kid. Maybe, they're going to start a jewelry business. It's just, the thing is that at that point in life, I find that most people are like, you know what? I'm going to do things my way now. And like I said in my podcast, freedom is the new F word. I feel like the day I realized I could mother and be a mom the way that worked for me was my day of liberation. And I think that is true for marriage, for success, for your garden, whatever you're doing, like, you can do it your way. But we get a lot of cultural conditioning in life that says, I hear my mom from the back seat saying, no, it's supposed to look like this, right? The table is supposed to be set like this. Marriage is supposed to look like this. And there's a lot of those. And I find that as long as there's lots of love and lots of acceptance, that you can do things how you want to do them.
So I kind of want to dig into that, because that I think everybody is on a path where they are on different levels of understanding there. And I think you nailed it with the 45 year old just hitting that peak, because I'm near there myself, and I find the values part is coming front and center of, what I thought was so important is no longer is, or this is what matters. This is where I want to spend my time. This is where my energy's going. But the kind of following the blueprint that's laid out there part, um, unfortunately, I don't think everybody gets to the point where it's like, I don't need to do this, or this is not the only way to do it. Was there a flashpoint, or was there something you mentioned mothering? Was there something that's like, yeah, I'm doing this my way. It might not always be right, but I'm going to feel much better about it.
Mm-hmm. Great. So there were two flashpoints. One was when it was maybe like 9 months into after my daughter was born. I was shuffling around the house, a bit depressed in my robe, not being able to shower. She wasn't sleeping. I was like, oh my God, freaking out. My husband was working really hard, not loving his job. And we were like, the furnace broke. And, I was like, we're like a country song. Like, and so all these bad things were happening. And so we passed in the hallway and I said, it's going to be okay. And we kind of both said at the same time, like, it's going to be okay. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, the baby. And he said, what are you talking about? And I said, the money. And I said, oh, we need to switch roles. Like, you need to stay home and I need to go back to school, to work. But I think in my head, there was something that said, no, Andrew, you're supposed to stay home. Like, that's what moms do, right? The woman stays home and like, she's supposed to love this time with the baby. And so that was definitely a turning point for me. And then there was another one where we were going to an Easter egg hunt. We don't go to church, but like we were going to this church Easter egg hunt around the corner, with these crappy plastic eggs and this crappy candy, because that's what you do at Easter. And it was so fun. And my daughter wanted to wear this I Heart Santa pajama top. And I was like, no, you are not wearing this I Heart Santa pajama top to an Easter egg hunt, right? And she was like, no, I really want to wear it. She's like 4. She's, 4 or 5. And I was just like picturing all these parents looking at her and then looking at me and thinking, she's not even trying, right? Like, and I was just like, wow, like I care too much about this. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. And I let her wear that. And I think that was just like the opening of a door to being like, whatever, like this does not matter. So it was a big step for me.
That's a good one, because there's a lot of pressure when especially when it's your first child or the first time you're doing these things, like, well, this is what I think I should be doing, or this is what other people are doing, or this is the path of least resistance. So I might as well stay on it, because I don't want that mom to tell me I'm terrible for wearing a Santa shirt to an Easter egg hunt, for example. But those are good examples.
And there's so many weird and wise decisions I ended up making. I had a daughter at a birthing center. I sent her to a Waldorf school, like just all these different, she didn't read till 3rd grade, gasp. So I got more confidence as I went on. I'm just like, nope, I'm doing it this weird way. Nope, I'm doing it this weird way. And they have worked out very well for me. But in the beginning, it takes some moxie, I think.
I don't want to overstate this, but I feel that once you get to that point, it's like everything kind of is similar to the Matrix, just starts breaking down. It's like, well, if I can do this over here, then nothing really has to be done a certain way. And I almost feel bad for someone who's like, no, we have to follow all of these steps.
Yes, no, you're totally right. I love that you referenced the Matrix, because like that's really the beginning movie where you're just like, oh, wait a second, right? And so things do start breaking down, and you find that you gain confidence as you start breaking the rules. And I was definitely raised though in a rule-based society or in a rule-based family. And I feel like I pretty much I was pretty straight track until like mid-20s. People meet me now and they're like, wow, you must have been a nightmare in high school. I'm like, actually, no, I was like really following the track.
So I would have thought probably an adventurous teen, but okay, I'm glad you set the record straight there.
Yeah.
Looking at my notes, you have clients that you work with in both corporate and coaching clients, and you mentioned important to have a target audience niche down. Do you consider them overlapping in a way? Do you have similar services, or how do you figure out who's a good match for you to work with?
Yeah, I feel like chemistry is really the most important thing. It's about chemistry and timing. And so when I get on the phone or on a Zoom with someone, I'm like, okay, I'm filtering as they're filtering, right? Like, is this a good match? And I find that I do like to work with entrepreneurs, but I often, and I also work with executives. I like to work with anyone who knows they have a bigger story to tell and knows they want to raise their voice and they have a vision beyond what they're doing now. So that could be entrepreneurship. It could be getting on a board, getting promoted, working for a different company. So I think that the common thread is probably that vision for expression. And this is also when I think a little bit about, like, there's a difference between your ego and your calling. And I'm trying to zone in on people who are really focused on that calling. Like, who do I want to be? What's the process for getting there? How can I go within and really like look at my inner life to see what I want?
So that's a good answer. So thank you for that. And it makes sense because even if it is different backgrounds, there are things that are very common, but as you describe them, especially starting with the chemistry piece, that I can tell when we are speaking if this is going to be something where there's going to be a more from working together, there will be more than if we were independent of each other. So we can kind of get to that next level.
Yeah. And I will just add to that, like, as you mentioned about the breaking down, a lot of my clients are like, am I sure that I can do it this way? Because I was told to do it this way. And so it's very connected to what you asked me before, that there's often no GPS or template for going off track. Right. And so if someone's been in a corporate, like, an escalator on the escalator their whole life, and now they want to get off, they're like, shit, I'm not sure how to do that. So I find I end up coaching them in that path too.
So will you help that person kind of with their personal brand while remaining in corporate some way, or are they leaving altogether and it's like, I need to leave this and I need you to help me on my next thing?
It's both. I definitely help people in that transition, when I call the liminal between the corporate and the coaching. Like, okay, I'm leaving, or I'm leaving it in 6 months. How do I get through this transition? However, some people really have a bigger story to tell via keynote, a book, or sitting on a board. And so both those are ideal clients for me.
Okay. You mentioned in your bio usually wearing hats. When did that start?
Yeah, I think I started wearing cowboy boots when I would, like, maybe 10 years ago. And I'd always loved cowboy boots, but I grew up in a really small town in Illinois. But I didn't ride a horse. I don't live on rural route 2. Like, and so I just felt like, oh, I couldn't do that, right? Like, because I'm not really a cowgirl. I'm like I'm an urban cowgirl. And then I think after I had a yoga training, which really like opened me up, right? Just like, it's like cheap therapy. And I was like, oh, that was when it's part of when I stopped following the rules, right? I was at that same time when my daughter was little. I was like, oh, I can wear cowboy boots with my yoga pants to yoga class. Who cares? Like, my belt does not have to match my shoes. What a concept, right? So I did that, and then the hat came along a little bit later. And I was like, I can wear a cowboy hat whenever I want. I don't have to be at a rodeo. I don't have to be at a concert. And then it started becoming part of my brand. And now I just love it. Like, it's just kind of my signature thing.
Very nice. And with that, kind of take this to a more serious question. Helping people get their personal brand out through social media, through LinkedIn, I know is where a lot of your clients are. What are mistakes that you currently see others who have not had guidance or have not had an expert to work with? What mistakes do you see out there, and what should people be stopped doing today on those platforms when they're trying to better tell their personal brand or better expose their personal brand?
Yeah. So I'd say most people look at LinkedIn as a resume builder, because that's what LinkedIn told us to do, right? And I'm not demonizing anyone. That's what we thought it was supposed to be in the beginning, and it was for a long time. And now it has really evolved into a different platform. And so people are still putting out their resumes. So you go to their profile and they're like, "Hi, I'm so awesome. Did I tell you how awesome I am? Enough about me. What do you think of me?" Like, it's just the me show, right? And it's too much. There's so much ego. And they don't mean for it to be that way, but that's how it comes across. And so I really, my approach is taking your LinkedIn profile or any online presence from a sell to a serve, and from a resume to a resource. We want to make the audience the hero of the story. We want to start a conversation. And we really want to meet people where they are and offer them value right in the profile. Like, and I am convinced that your personality and your energy can come across in that profile, and people on the other side think, huh, I think he's talking to me. I'm intrigued, because we're all the center of our own universe. Like, we care about ourselves most, except for our children. I get it. But still, you know, we are egocentric, right? And so when it feels like someone's talking to us, they see us and they hear us, understand us, that feels good.
So I like that transition and kind of the dichotomy that you paint there between this is me selling something, me selling myself versus me serving, me being a resource. How how can you how can you help others make that change kind of, I don't say quickly, but when it's not obvious, where I see exhibit A, or I see the LinkedIn bio one day and the next day I see, well, this looks a lot different. No, this must be, no, it's still the same person. How do they make, how does that come across authentically? Or how does that not seem like, all right, this is just putting lipstick on a pig, if you will?
Mm. Well, I think going through what I call my boot kicking brand journey is like really inquiring within, right? It's going deep and saying, who am I and how am I different than all the other coaches out there? So it's really like, and that's what I say I do for my clients, is like, I help them hold up a mirror to themselves, right? And it's sometimes uncomfortable, because personal growth is uncomfortable. Like, really looking at yourself and saying, oh, what is it that I bring to the table? What do I not bring to the table? But acknowledging that, like, that's not your thing, but this is your thing, and moving toward that organically, and then expressing from there. I mean, I do say most of my mission in life is helping people 45 to 60 be brave with the rest of their life. And so it does take some bravery to put your authentic self out there. I would say too, as far as when it comes to a LinkedIn profile, that it's, you know, it's a process. Like, start by identifying your target audience, right? And start by really choosing, who is it that you want to connect with? You are the source. Don't say, well, whoever wants to connect with me, or whoever wants my stuff, right? No, who do you want to work with? Like, that was fine when you were 25. You're 45 now. You get to choose. And you don't need hundreds, you don't need thousands of clients before you die. You don't have time for thousands of clients. Like, you have time for 60 maybe. So like, you know, you don't have to market to this mass amount of people. Like, get specific, and then you're going to work with who you want to work with.
Like that. I like that very much. Uh, helping people be brave it's something that is not easy, because a lot of times sticking with comfort and sticking with what's easy is the path that people are drawn to. So what do you often find is the roadblock, or what do people say, that sounds great and I wish I could be brave, but that's just too hard, that's too difficult? How do you help them see this is not so bad?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a lot of hand holding, right? It's a lot of nurturing them along the path. It's it's a lot of telling people to be patient with themselves and to go a little bit at a time, right? I mean, this has taken a long time for me, and I'm still like, I still am like get scared. And, you know, I see I have a lot of moxie, but I bitch a lot along the way. Like, and you can ask my husband about that, right? Like, I'm run very anxious. Like, it's not like I'm just this like devil may care person that never worries. I worry constantly, but I just keep making the bold, brave decisions. So, I mean, I think mostly I want to tell people, look, you can do it, and you can also, you know, be stable and secure. Like, try one thing at a time. Just go at your own pace. You don't have to do anything super crazy tomorrow.
Well, I think that's the big thing, and that's kind of what a lot of what we've talked about can boil down to one takeaway is I still get scared that there's no finish line, there's no wait for perfect and then go ahead and do this. That you're going to take some steps forward, you're going to take some steps sideways and backwards, and it's never going to be perfect or completely finished. And you're never going to be that finished product. That you're going to have to go ahead, take that step, and be okay with being wrong or being not there. So I really think that's wonderful advice. Uh, I have jumped around a ton, which I am known to do, and we're already somehow coming up on time. But Andrea, is there a question that I didn't ask you that I probably should have this evening?
Hmm. Well, I guess I want to say, related to what you were just talking about with, you know, the hesitancy to be brave, is I really just want to help people understand that it's okay to be uncomfortable. That is what I feel like I've struggled with, because I was actually quite fortunate to be brought up in a functional family by loving parents, and things were given to me, and life was pretty smooth. Like, and I'm totally grateful for that. But it's not great at building resilience, right? And so, and in this day and age, jump to now where you just want something on Amazon and you can get it in 2 hours, right? Like, it's and then with the advent of Zoom and COVID, like everything is just so comfortable, right? And so, and that doesn't help build resilience. So I've really learned that being uncomfortable is it's like the key to personal growth. Like, no doubt, when you're walking through fire, when you're doing uncomfortable shit, you are going to grow. But it's really hard. Like, it's totally hard. And I definitely, my heart goes out to people who are forced into situations, right? Because we go through tragedies and dysfunction and breakups and death and lots of difficult things in life. And that is uncomfortable. But I would say, even if that is not happening to you now, choose something that is uncomfortable for you and see what happens. Be alone, create spaciousness, inquire within.
And that really kind of ties a lot of this together. The resilience and the being okay with being uncomfortable, because we are going to have difficult situations. We are going to be forced to do things we don't want to do. And the earlier that we can start, or the more okay we can be with it, kind of acting from, all right, I'm not going to just wait for something bad to happen. I am going to live proactively. I'm going to do things, and some things are not going to work out, and I'll be okay with it because I have this 1 year, 10 year, 15 years of experience of trying different stuff, or being okay with not being okay. So I think that that's really the big thing, because even if you want to live in a bubble or be comfortable, something unfortunately bad is going to happen, or something that you did not plan for. So the more times you can step out, the more resilient you can be. Love it.
It's absolutely. And I want to draw the line between, like, think about the difference between not feeling safe and not feeling comfortable. Now, of course, you always want to feel safe, but discomfort is a little different. It's lighter, right? And I've claimed before, I'm like, this doesn't feel safe. No, actually, it's just uncomfortable. Like, I'll be okay. I'll make it through. So yeah, so it's that resilience.
Very good distinction there. Andrew, where can our listeners find you or connect with you if they want to learn more, or to work with you?
Absolutely. So I am online on LinkedIn, and you can find me there. You can also find me on Instagram. Permission to be human.live is my podcast website. I encourage you to check that out. It's about marriage, love, divorce, and boundaries. And it's about freedom being the new F word. And if you're at all interested, definitely shoot me an email. I'm also at thebootfactor.com, name of my company. Thank you so much, Mike.
Excellent. So we will post all that. Andrew, this has been a blast. It was great catching up with you, and you are a wonderful strategic storyteller, and I'm glad that we could do this together.
Thank you so much, Mike.